Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Soul to Soul Connections with Jeni Ji. I'm your host, Jeni Ji Cousins. Now, in order to watch these episodes in the show, subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channel in order to catch these exciting interviews. You'll be able to catch it. I'm on a few different platforms. And the links, by the way, will also be in the description box below, where you can read more about my guest and so on. And also, if one of you or some of you, by the way, have a story you'd really like to share with me or something to talk about, send me a message, because you never know. I could reach out to you and say, you know what, let's have that chat. Let's have a chat and have that interview. So I'm just saying, keep that in mind, you guys. Now, on today's show, I'm very delighted, very excited to introduce my guest. I talked to him beforehand as well. He's an amazing person, and you're going to understand why. And I want to welcome Rahelio Rodriguez. Thank you for taking some time to chat with me today.
Well, thank you, Jenny. Glad to be here and share this moment with you.
Yes, absolutely. And can you share a little bit about yourself? And then we're going to go into some questions and talk more.
Okay. I've been here in Sedona the last over 36 years. You can see Sedona is in my background. This is I call that my office out there on the land. And I've been doing work as a spiritual guide and shamanic healer. I'm a professional astrologer. I kind of took a lot of time to put those pieces together when I lived on Maui, Hawaii, back in got there in 79 to 85. And then I made my way to Sedona, got here in 1987, in time for the harmonic convergence. And many people are coming here to be a part of the spiritual awakening and coming to sacred places to catch that wave of consciousness. So my role has been as an activator and a guide and bringing people to the land and working as all-around healer. When I lived on Maui, I was studying astrology and all the type of shamanic and metaphysical teachings I could find, yoga philosophies and practice, etc. And over there is when I had my first encounter with the UFO and had contact with the UFO people. That was quite an eye-opener because that was not something that was a part of my reality at that time. And coming to Sedona, I also received contact. The day I arrived on the summer solstice in a meditation, and in the meditation, they beamed the energy flame tapped me on the forehead, like 20 seconds tapped me on my mind's eye. And these women that had contacted me earlier in Hawaii, they again spoke to me in my mind and told me that I was to be a spiritual guide here, and that there'd be thousands and thousands of people coming looking for answers, to answer people's questions, to speak of love and inspiration. And they said there's going to be a great awakening coming, has been prophesied by the ancient cultures around the world. So that's been a strong part of my messages, is in spite of the duality and the struggles we're going through, that this awakening is happening and we're a part of it, and we have to step up into it and bring a greater awakening with ourselves and our connection with Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's especially now. I mean, with so many different changes, there's been more changes now than there has been in over 10,000 years.
Well, so change always happens. It's the nature of reality. The Earth goes through physical changes.
Yeah.
But civilizations rise and fall, and history has turning points. And so right now we know that the future, the timelines are fluid, that what we choose to create as a collective consciousness needs to awaken to a higher possibility and to transcend the negativity of eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, the conflicting energies. We need to align our souls to the higher light and touch into the timelessness of our true selves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. And with so many different people waking up in the world, once upon a time they saw things one way. Now they're looking at things so differently. There's a lot more truth, of course, is coming out and being exposed about certain things and situations. So it's really like a beautiful time on the planet, as I call it. I mean, there's of course the not so good side, but I think it's how we see things and our level of perception.
Yes, heaven and hell is here now on
Yeah.
the earth for us to experience. And in the past, in the mystery schools and the sacred teachings, what was secret, today, this is all coming out now, and that and more, as more understanding and realizations are coming forth. And so there's so much information coming out now that we have to have a true discernment as far as what we're going to agree to is our truth.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's so much out that a lot of it is less than desirable. A lot of struggle in the shadow of things with conspiracies and the dark forces and people fighting with it outside themselves versus realizing that they have to transform it inside themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you realize that you were going to start teaching? Because you teach
Well,
many different things.
mm, well, when I was younger, my early 20s, and I had my awakening, and I was obsessively studying everything I could find at that time. I wanted to share that information because whenever you take information in, you have to give it out. So the more you've taken in, the more you need to share. But there was not an audience that was ready for what I wanted to talk about. And when I did talk to people about real spiritual things, it was people's programs around me that were not able to adapt to the ideas that I was too progressive, and it took a while for me to find my voice. And especially some of the expressions I had were very powerful. They jolted me, and I don't want to say traumatized me, but it made it hard for me to share my experiences because of how powerful and uh, unique they were. But coming to Sedona and becoming a spiritual guide with the famous vortex idea that Sedona represents, it gave me an avenue to be able to speak my truth. And right away, I had this. It was such a fulfillment that I could share all this information with people that was just pouring through me. And people say, "Oh, you must be channeling all that." It's like it wasn't really channeling; it was just what I already knew, but it came through me like I was channeling. And being a spiritual guy, taking people to power places and seeing their excitement and seeing uh, just how the land had such an effect on people. And in that excitement, I could see people were not grounded. I could see people were looking for answers, but they didn't know where to find those answers. And so I began to naturally step into teaching people how to ground, how to connect, how to breathe, how to meditate, how to do spiritual practice. And I began to fill in the blanks, like connect the dots with wisdom, traditions, and current events. And I'm real good at connecting the dots.
Mhm. Yeah. That's that higher consciousness immediately clicks in. Because you also have like your own church, like your own native church
Mm.
that you created. Like how did that happen? Like how did that come about?
Well, first I became ordained as a minister with the Order of Melchizedek. One day I was out hiking. This is like 1988, hiking and looking for new places and powerful sacred places, just looking for places to go to be with the land. And I went to visit this place. Today they call it Devil's Bridge. We call it the Rainbow Bridge. But I met this man there. It was just him and I there. And we were hanging out, talking, sharing some of our experiences. He had been a Christian minister, and all he ever wanted to be was a priest, went to the seminary school and all this. And he began to study like Edgar Casey and things that I had been studying and fascinated by, alternative progressive ideas. And he wanted to share that with his congregation. They didn't accept it. They kicked him out. So he was heartbroken. And then he received a dream that he was to ordain other progressive ministers to be of service this way. And so he invited me to come to Bell Rock. In my picture here above my shoulder, you can see the Bell Rock right there, right there. So he had set up an altar there and had a chair where we would sit on, and he would anoint us with oil and did a priest anointing. He had like 100 people. Dan Chesborough, the Order of Melchizedek. So I became ordained as a minister. I didn't do much with it. I just kind of stayed a spiritual guide and kept it at that level. But later, well, when I first got here, I began to have visitations in the dream time in the spirit realm with the Native American spirits coming to me. And they, without speaking to me, they told me to do the songs and the ceremonies and do them the right way. Like, they got very serious, do them the right way, but they were kind of adamant. They were kind of urgent, and they're kind of pushing towards me, like, do this, do this. And even though they didn't speak, this is what I heard in my mind, do it the right way. And I kind of pushed back because I'm kind of a rebellious person. I don't like being told what to do. And I said to them, I didn't grow up with that. So somebody's got to teach me. And within the next year or two, various medicine people, medicine men, women come to town, and I would sit with them and do ceremony with them and kind of learn with them. And not just Native American, but in Hawaii, I was with Tibetan Buddhists and different mystics. I've been blessed that my path has crossed many mystics and shamanic people. And just by being around people and seeing how they do what they do, what they share, how they share, it gives you a mirror, like, okay, this is my relative here, and what do we have in common? And I was already doing a lot of the same teachings before I even met them. So I was already on the path. I already had the knowing within me. And I was blessed that when I was in Hawaii, my girlfriend was very clairvoyant in our meditations. A great teacher can speak through her, telepathically through her to me. And every week I received teachings from this, what you call an ascended master. And so that was a beautiful thing. And I didn't have that many questions. So then I began to ask mostly about astrology and the cosmic, how it works and how do things work. That's what I wanted to know. How does it all work? So astrology is kind of like a quantum physics of the psyche, because a lot of scientists look at the laws of, quantum physics, or what do you call that, astrophysics, but it can also be interpreted in consciousness with us here on the earth, because our psyche is mirroring the solar system. And for those who graduate the solar system, are mirroring the greater star field of the galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all so much connected, and I love it how whenever we get drawn to something, it starts to expand, right? Like we could get drawn into like one subject, for instance, and then we start reading, and then we're like, oh, we start learning more and more and more, and then it expands so rapidly and so quickly. Because you had like the UFO experience as well.
Mhm.
Like what was that like? Like what happened with that?
Well, I met a man on Maui who had a T-shirt on that said UFOs are real, but the government's lying. He had little flying saucers on his shirt. The UFOs are real, but the government's lying about it. So I asked him, like, well, what's going on with this? And he said he had been being taken up in his dreams, in his sleep state, onto the ship with other people being trained how to use their minds, visualize, and to create and use their mind in a positive way. So when he told me that, I was open to the possibility that this was real because of my own mystical experiences. I was open to this could be real. Maybe he's just dreaming, he's in his imagination, or maybe he's traveling in his astral body and going on the ship. So I was open to it until like a week later, visiting some friends, I decided to go outside in the night sky and get a fresh breath of air, and under the brilliant stars, the brilliant sky of Maui at nighttime, no city lights, and a UFO came right down over me, hovered right over me, and it hummed a high pitch. And it shimmered like a mirage. It was bright like a lightning bolt with a white silverish tinge to it. It was like it looked like a wing of a plane. I think, is that a plane? But there's no nose or no tail, and planes don't hover or make that sound. it's not a helicopter because it's not doing the blah, 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 blah. The propeller's not doing that or spinning. It's what is it? And just then the lights on my friend's house on the porch came on, and they came out and said, "Rahelio, it's a UFO." They're yelling out at me, and it dipped on its side and disappeared. And it was very exhilarating experience. If you study a UFO phenomenon, people talk about where UFOs have landed or where they've flown by certain areas, and they usually burn the ground or leave a radiation signature. And people have been too close to them, get their skin burned like radiation burn. So the people of this ship was of a higher frequency, and it didn't have that kind of a power system. So it was a high frequency light ship. And a week later, they beamed into my mind, and my head was ringing high pitch E. In the back of my head began to hum a medulla, and down my crown chakra, a beam of energy came down into my body. It was pure bliss, blissful energy. And these two women began to speak to me, and they were saying, just relax and go with it. We are balancing your energy. We are healing your energy. And they put that energy on my body. So then 3 years later, when I get to Sedona and I'm in the meditation, they beam into my mind and they began to tell me telepathically that this is my work here. Because I was at that time 31 years old, and I left Hawaii. I didn't know how I was going to find my place on the mainland, back in the world. I didn't know how I'd fit in. I didn't know if I had any skills to be here, and how am I going to survive? And so they kind of reassured me by saying, this is where you've come to do your work. You're to be a spiritual guide. So I was in right timing to be in Sedona, because the vortex phenomenon and people coming here for the harmonic convergence, Sedona became like the hot spot for this social awakening for the spiritual community.
Mhm. Yeah, because Hawaii has like that's one of the main vortexes as well in Hawaii. I mean, I've had a UFO experience. To make a long story short, I was in a hotel and I couldn't sleep, and I had this feeling, and I was with my friend, and she was sleeping, she was away across the room, and I felt this vibration, and I could see under the door these orange lights, like underneath the door, orange lights and yellow lights, right? I stayed awake all night, and when my friend woke up in the morning, I was still awake, and she's like, "Oh, you've been up?" And I'm like, "I haven't slept yet." And she goes, "I had the strangest dream." And I'm like, "Oh, what was it?" She goes, "I had a dream I was abducted by a UFO." Like, and I didn't say anything. Like, I didn't say anything. It's, you know,
And there's a thing about having an encounter and versus being abducted. So
yeah,
some of them are of a higher frequency in alignment with the divine plan for humanity. They're coming to help us. They can't interfere, but by us human beings doing the work of our prayerful work and people of sincerity in their prayers to Great Spirit. In all religions, there are people who are sincere and pure of heart, and people who are light workers, that by doing the work that they can actually intervene and help to shape the future and mitigate dangerous situations, earth changes, etc. That they can intervene if we are doing the work, and Great Spirit allows them to help us this way. But there are some of those that are maybe questionable, that are experimenting with people, genetic samples, and etc., that may not be of the highest
yeah,
mm,
yeah,
intent, and people can come away feeling traumatized by the experiences and like
yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely. So now I know you said like that many awaken on the path of the spiritual warrior. Can you explain what the spiritual warrior is?
Well, the spiritual warrior, when we get on the path, the first thing you begin to realize is that you connect with the grace of the divine, and you begin to awaken and realize this is a very exciting thing when you begin to realize that there's so much more. But then what happens is that the people that you may have known before, or the people around you, they may not be receptive to this, and it can leave you feeling alone, separate, and different or unique, but you don't fit in. And this can create a sense of duality or separation, that we're separate from everybody and nobody understands the frequency that we're holding or the understanding of our type of experience. And so the spiritual warrior looks at the nature of duality and how we are caught in it and begin to, you might say, bring ourselves into alignment through transforming our understanding, that we can be in a unity consciousness. In other words, the spiritual word, the words with the lower self that can sabotage us, can indulge. We make mistakes, and it's like those mistakes can be our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Or they can be our worst enemy. So the spiritual warrior makes it their teaching versus it turning our enemies into our teachers, you might say. Whatever oppresses us, and however the ego struggles to reconcile the duality around us, that shows us where the ego is stuck. And the ego is the illusion, our sense of ego self-importance. When we begin to recognize that it's just the spirit showing us where the ego's stuck, we can begin to let go of the ego attachments, become fluid like water, kind of like a Bruce Lee saying, become like water and flow around obstacles. We can begin to flow because we're not attached to holding a point of view. Like today, if you disagree with somebody about their politics and what they think is the truth, today people are freaking out and they want to hate you because they're so attached to their beliefs. And that's kind of like the shadow, these so-called freedom fighters, that's like the shadow of the spiritual warrior.
Mm-hmm.
These freedom fighters that want to overthrow the government, that want to overthrow the deep state, overthrow the system, the establishment, but they overthrow it, they become the new dictator because they had not dealt with their own shadow. They're projecting their shadow outside themselves. It's like things can upset you about how people are abusing their power or what's going on negatively outside, but then you have to realize that as you judge something, you create that karma for yourself.
Yeah.
That's like something like a Jesus. I love Jesus' teachings. I don't like religion so much, but I like Jesus' teachings. He said, judge not unless you judge yourself. Because what you judge with a strong feeling, like emotional attachment, what you judge, that karma comes down to your reality. Now you got to work it out. That's why he said, resist ye not evil. Because you start to fight with evil, the deep state, the hidden negative powers of the world, then that brings it into your reality. And, you know, it's kind of like when I was younger, I see these born again Christian movements, and they had a love for Jesus, but they were very judgmental about you got to walk the path, the straight and the narrow, and you had to conform to this way. But then I see them a few years later, they all like had turned on each other, and their shadows had all busted out on each other, so they fall apart. And so learning how to see reality without being reactionary to it is the spiritual warrior's path of releasing our attachment to being right, releasing our attachment to how things should be. Because if I see Sedona as a sacred land, and there shouldn't be people living here, and there's too many cars, and there's too much commotion, and if I start judging it as a negative thing, then I'm stuck in my own negative judgment, and I lose my bliss. And
Yeah.
so when I saw that once upon a time, like 25 years ago, well, not 30 years, it was 30 years ago, they were doing construction work outside where I was living. I couldn't get out of my driveway into the main highway. I have to wait in the jackhammer making noise all day long and hot, dusty, and can't get into my driveway because they're working. And that's when I started to find myself being really judgmental about this shouldn't be going on like this. This is a sacred land. And where did my bliss go? Oh,
Yeah.
my bliss. I lost my bliss because I'm judging it. I'm judging how I think it should be versus being with what is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because certain circumstances, you can't do anything about it. You know, like certain situations, I take it that, there's certain signs, you know, that it's time to go a different direction or how you view things in a different way. Like I had something very dangerous happen to me in December recently, and it shook me up. So for me, it was like that confirmation from spirit, as I call it, that now, Jeni, it's your time to move. You know, you felt that for quite some time. So I'm like 85% packed right now, right? And I'm like, okay, spirit, thank you for that experience, because now that's that confirmation, time for me to move. So I'll take that negative experience and I'll shift it into something very positive. So even the
Yes.
jackhammer and stuff like that, it's like, who wants to go through that? Who wants to, you know, but it's just part of life's events that we have to deal with, and how we go about it. You know, we get tested, as I call it, right? I'm like, I don't like being tested like that, spirit. But then when you look at it in a higher viewpoint, you're like, thank you for that confirmation. Like, thank you that you're pushing me now into another direction. Where I'm going, I'm surrendering that, leaving it up to the spirit world, right?
I had some clients today I was working with, and they're asking about the astrology readings. I was doing some healing work with them, some clearing work with them. I didn't do the astrology, but they were asking me about it, and seeing what's going on in their future, etc. Which the astrology can predict some events in your future,
Mhm.
but sometimes successes that people have, if it reinforces the ego superiority, their successes can maybe make them narcissistic or feel superior to other people, or they can abuse their success, abuse their power. So a success or a positive thing can become a negative spiritual thing for them. Or a person has a loss or something that is a difficult situation. By meeting it in the right way, it can be a very positive, successful experience. So the
Yeah.
spiritual warrior, as you mentioned, has to perceive things glass half full versus glass half empty. And whenever we as human beings are going through our difficult tests, and our woundedness, you might say, will come up in a difficult situation. That's when the negative voice can be pessimistic, like things are bad, and this old loop of the negative karma. And that's what I like with my people, is to get them to go to that point and feel what that's about, so I can help them clear that program and pull it out of their bodies and out of their minds. And so everything has a silver lining if we just have the skills to work with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, we can either fall apart, as I call it, you know, and go down the rabbit hole, or we can, you know, like take that pause and say, hey, what am I being shown? What am I learning from this experience? You know, what
Yes.
am I really going through here? What is being shown to me? And I'll really kind of say, okay, you know, rather than, oh my God, I did the oh my gods, believe me, right? Like, oh my God. But it's like, okay, let's really look at that. Like, let's really look at that. It's time for changes. It's time to embrace the new. And you know, I really felt that push and push. It's time for the new, 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 new. So I'm like, okay, I'm surrendering it, you know?
That's a big one right there. It's like, thy will be done, great spirit. Because we all have our agenda thing, our plan to what we need to do. But ultimately, when our destiny is shifting and we're uncertain about where we land because we don't have it all figured out, that's when radical faith, that we are connected to the source. And as we strengthen that connection and we have that power of that faith that we are connected to that higher mind, the universe, then that power of faith is within us, and we can navigate any type of challenge that come out of it successful. And sometimes if you don't have that connection, that faith, then your situation can go disastrous if you don't
Yeah,
have that extra help along the way.
yeah, yeah. Because it like I learned many, many years ago, many moons ago, as I call it, that the only thing that's left is to surrender, because there's nothing else after that. So I literally I do what I'm doing, whatever it is, and then I just surrender it to how things are going to go, how things are going to flow, and I just keep on moving forward and going. And then certain pauses like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? I'm like, okay, I need to really look at this, right? And then think about it. What's it teaching me? What am I gaining from this? What am I learning from this horrible experience or whatever it is? And then I like, okay, now my next step is to go this direction and that direction. So,
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the four agreements of the Toltec teacher Don Miguel Ruiz. I also consider myself a Toltec. My ancestry comes out of Mexico. I have like shamanic wisdom that comes from my soul from Mexico. But of his agreements, the fourth agreement, do the best you can do and surrender the results.
Yeah.
Because even though you surrender to Great Spirit and surrender, you still got to show up
Yeah.
and do your best to create a frequency of success.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends is into the everything is predetermined and it's all a dream and nothing is real and it's already all predetermined. I said, yes, that doesn't mean you can't, you have to show up and you still have to grow as a human being. Unless you become so advanced that you've transcended your ego mind and you're a pure conduit for God to come through you, and you're living in a state that you see beyond the appearances of duality and everything is divine. If unless you're at that level, you still have to show up and do your best and make an effort. And the trick is that when we are taking an effort to, I'm here trying to get there, that duality creates stress and conflict within us because we're not at peace. We're trying to evolve to the next stage of our life. And so surrender, it also represents about being present in the here and now, that I am not the doer, the universe is doing through me. And so it's a fine line of balancing those two teachings of self-actualization versus everything is already is in divine perfection here and now, just by being a conduit for the universe to flow through us. It's just a matter of taking that alignment of the universe being in perfect consciousness and moving forward in grace. So it's all about the law of grace. You know, if you have grace flowing through you. And if not, then that's where we have to get back on our bicycle and get the pedaling and ride up that hill.
Exactly. So who is Sun Bear? Like what drew you to his teachings of the medicine wheel?
Oh, Sun Bear. That was a
Yeah.
long time ago. I met Sun Bear when I lived on Maui.
Mm.
You know, I was in Maui. I was in Kihei in the 80s, 85 I was in Kihei. And Sun Bear came, he was doing some teaching there, holding some groups. And so I would go and hang out with Sun Bear. And he had his book just come out, The Medicine Wheel. And I was just obsessed with astrology. So I'm asking him all these questions. And he'd say, read the book, read the book, read the book. And so I read the book. And what I realized was that in learning Western astrology, the medicine wheel was another piece of it that gave me a greater understanding of how that all works. Like when I was first doing astrology and I was reading sun signs and planetary aspects and houses and things like that, it's very complicated, astrology is, but you can simplify it once you understand how it works. And whenever I talk to anybody about their sun sign, everybody was kind of rebelling against this. I don't want to be my sun. I am not my sun sign. I am not defined by my sun sign. Sun sign astrology was kind of an aversion for people that I was being because everybody was individuating. They were rebelling against being defined by anything because people write about sun signs and they're usually describing the people around them with those signs. And nobody wants to be defined because we want to be awakened as a free being. And so I began to look more deeper into more refined interpretation to see how things were working and what defines our doing and our karma and our how we actualize our life path. And so the medicine wheel, that brought me out of the chart on the piece of paper and the night sky, the idea of the night sky, and brought me down onto the earth itself. Again, this is 1985. And so coming down to the earth and recognizing the power of the four directions, the power of the circle of the horizon around us. And this mirrored my study of putting the chart onto the earth itself. The chart became the earth itself. The mother earth was the chart. And this led me into doing what today is called astrocartography or local space chart, where you can map your planetary lines on the earth. And back then, 85, I was right on that wavelength. And so Sun Bear's teachings gave me a really nice understanding of kind of a feng shui of your local space. And then also I built several beautiful medicine wheels. Today there's one at the Peace Park in Sedona called the Amitabha Stupa. I put a medicine wheel there and teaching with the wheel. I walk people around the wheel. I can divinate where they are on the wheel, what it means for their life. just by walking around prayerfully and then stopping at a place that feels right for you, it's amazing how you're synchronized to the teaching of the wheel there. And so this is embracing, it's like creating an altar space for ceremony. And with astrology, when I learned astrology, there was not very many people who were embraced the understanding of the deeper significance of ceremony with it. And there was no roots for that level. But then for me, the native traditions, which is so natural for me, my ancestry is native, even though I didn't grow up in like a reservation type of teaching with that wisdom, but that's come to me so naturally. And then looking at that wheel, and you have the 12 signs of the zodiac, but this zodiac from Sun Bear came from the Great Lakes people. And so they have different animals for the different signs. The same signs, similar personality interpretations, but different animals in different ways, a different angle of looking. Like if you're an Aries, the ram, headstrong, independent-minded, and needing the freedom to pioneer ahead, to forge your own path, sometimes butting the head against ramming the head. And Aries people have bumps on their head because they're bumping their head in their life. This is a red hawk people, quick to fly in to see what's going on, quick to fly out if I don't like it. There's different ways of looking at things. The Taurus, I have for I'm the Taurus, the bull, earthy, sensual, Taurus, resourceful, self-determined. Well, is the beaver people. The beaver busy cutting down the trees, making the dam. After the dam is in, the stream turns into a pond, then they build the stick house, and then they want to play in the pool afterwards. So the earthy, sensual, manifested material reality of our being resourceful is the same teachings, but just a different way of looking in. And I love to see the multiplicity of ways of looking at things and find the common truth behind it. And so what I've done, I look at the Tibetan Buddhism and the yogic traditions and Taoism and Native American shamanisms, North and South, and the Hawaiian kahunas and astrophysicists and the depth psychologists and past life regressions, etc. The nature of the soul from all these different traditions. I look at all those and I see the common thread, and I can weave a very unique synergy of all that knowledge. And I'm very unique in that way, and how I can do that.
Do you so if somebody, let's say, wanted to get a chart done by you and they don't have their date, their time of birth. I know the time of birth, of course, means much more. Can you still put together like more of a chart even if they don't have their time of birth?
You can still give them a reading, but especially when it comes to predictive techniques, the place of the sunrise, the place of the noon, the sunset, and the midnight, that four directional cross, a day equals a year. That cross turns like a combination lock. And as it turns, it gets triggered, or planets as they move trigger those angles, and it creates events in the life. So if you don't have that accuracy, then you can't pinpoint predictive timing for circumstances or events to happen.
Yeah.
You can give a psychological reading.
Yeah.
You can do like that, and I way back in the past I designed some astrology dice, and now I'm using these dice I bought that are made of labradorite that I can divinate with people. Sometimes I used to do tarot cards, and if people want to know what's going on, but it's nice to have an accurate time. Because what happens is that you have 12 signs of the zodiac, and the Earth turns in 24 hours. So each sign is approximately 2 hours at the eastern horizon, and that sign is the doorway that you meet life through. It's like it all begins at the sunrise, the birth moment, the first breath, and you step through that doorway of that sign. It's going to be ruled by a planet, which is going to be in one of the 12 houses. So that sunrise ruler planet rules your chart, and it's going to be the 12 houses. That house will show how you go about your path awakening on your path of individuation. Who am I? Where am I going? How do I discover myself? That's where you're going to go. You're not going to know that consciously, but you're going to go that way because your soul's taking you that way. So the sunrise is very, very important. And like the moon position, the high place of the sun, that's like your career and your status in the world, your family status, etc., what you aspire to be in the world. It's going to be ruled by a planet. It's going to have planets maybe in that house. And it's going to describe what you do in the world and how you're evolving your role in the world.
Yeah.
And the real big thing in astrology is the planet Pluto. They try to demote it as a minor planet, but in astrology, it's very, very powerful. It's like a binary or a trinary system. And Pluto is like this evolutionary dynamic within the soul. One aspect is how we hold on to our security. I need to hold on to this for dear life and my desire to create what I want. I need to hold on to this. Or it's like having a near-death experience because he's the Lord of Death. And when people die and they see like the universe is pure love, what am I doing clinging down here in the 3D? I want to be back home where I've come from. I want to evolve back into the heaven realm. So we have this dual desire, this desire to evolve to our highest spiritual purpose, or this holding on for dear life, and like a Pluto rule Scorpio, a scorpion stinging each other, stinging ourselves because we can't let go of our attachments. And so Pluto's going to be in your chart somewhere. It's going to show where you go through the deepest personal metamorphosis. It'll be in a house, and you need your exact time to know which house it falls in. And then the moon makes its orbit around the Earth. The moon is how we feel our emotional connection to life, what supports us, our mother, our family, our support system. It has its orbit, the north and the south node. The south node shows where you're coming from, what security patterns you're bringing through, and usually is like a past life indicator. And the north node shows how you're evolving in this lifetime and growing and developing new emotional ways of mastering your life. So it's like a river of destiny. And so you can read people's life path and their soul pattern and what kind of karma they're bringing from their past life and what influences are helping them to fulfill their destiny in this lifetime. So it's very fascinating. I love astrology. It's the quantum physics of the psyche.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Western astrology and also Vedic astrology. I like the both of them and the uniqueness of both of them. And I even like how like they call the South the trickster, the coyote.
You mean South Node?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
dragon's
What?
head and the dragon's tail? Mercury retrograde is I'd call that the trickster, the
Yeah,
coyote. Mercury retrograde.
yeah. So if somebody said, okay, I want to live down in the South, does that mean it's going to be more trickier for them? Like they're going to come across more
Well,
tricksters?
well, if you were look at your chart, you would see these four cardinal directions: sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight. These are the days define the structure of your psyche. And if you're moving somewhere, that four directional cross moves for that new location, and new planets come to the angles of the four directions. And or maybe even align with the equator, planets on the equator. There's certain ways to define how a planet's place on the world. If you bring the sky down to the Earth, you can see how it begins to, what kind of impact it has, if it's a powerful placement or not. Like, for instance, I get people who've gone through very, very heavy duty life experiences, kind of traumatic and very intense and obsessive. And they look at their chart and they go like, I don't know where it is in my chart. Nobody's ever told me. And I look at the chart and I say, well, there's Pluto right on your equator. And this is why, and Pluto's making off the equator, it's other planets that may be close by is triggering. And all of a sudden, oh, that's what that was, that missing piece. I'm really good at finding the missing pieces that a lot of astrologers don't see. And like say Vedic astrology, they have certain rules that they use to define what planetary strengths are, which makes that system work. But there are signs, like you could be a Scorpio, intense, secretive Scorpio, but in the Vedic chart, you're a Libra. So my friends who are Vedic astrologers, they describe Libra as being very Scorpio intense. And it's kind of cheating, I think, with the zodiac.
Yeah, because I
But
mean, like,
everybody wants to make it work for them, as long as it works, then they got it. But it's not a true Scorpio. It's not a Libra. It's
yeah,
it's the signs that they blur them over, and so.
yeah,
But it works for you. If a person is good with astrology, they can make it work,
yeah,
and how they want to define it, describe it. But
yeah. Is that
for
like the
me,
Scorpio sting?
all of a sudden Libra becomes Scorpio. It's like, oh, it's a Libra that can't make a decision. That becomes intense Scorpio that is very opinionated.
Yeah,
Look, that'll be the same
yeah.
on Scorpio. Scorpios are all or nothing. I love this or I hate this. And see, as Scorpio energy, you have to have Scorpio energy if you want to be on a shamanic path,
Yeah.
because that embraces the death of the ego.
Mm.
The death of the ego, the transformation, the alignment with the soul. Because, like most of us human beings, we need our egos in order to function in 3D. We're not living in an ashram, walking around in a diaper, where we're just meditating and being one with source and in a transcendental state, knowing that it's all one with source. We're out here in duality. We need an ego to navigate and to function, and we engage with other people. Life is about relationship, and relationship is where all of our greatest growth comes from. So Scorpio is our relationship with others and the power of that relationship. The time of year is in the Scorpio time of year is fall time, and everything is dying in nature, in the temperate zones, where we get winter times coming, and the freezing, the death, and then the resurrection in next spring, death and rebirth. So we all have this Scorpio ruled by Pluto evolutionary drive that takes us through personal deaths and rebirths. So we're always having little deaths. It's kind of like you are in a phase where you're moving and you're not sure where you're going. You're dying in where you've been. That's coming to an end so you can birth on a new level. Now you look at your chart, you say, well, where is this Scorpio line in my chart? How does it map on the world? Where's my Jupiter line, which I create success, or my Venus line, so I can nurture and heal myself and find love or artistic expression, or my sun line that can awaken my purpose. So you're looking for what lines that match an environment that you want to be in, because some people are up there in the Northwest and it rains all the time and they just can't take it no more. They want to be down here in the sunny desert of the Southwest. Some people down here in the Southwest are burning up and they want to go someplace like the Northwest or over to Hawaii or California, or like where the mountains are, and so where do I feel like I'm supposed to be? I don't know. I'm just going to go there and explore it. And next thing you know, that I found my destiny there. Then you do your mapping and you see like, wow, I had these planets there. And what I did is exactly what these planets are saying. So when all of a sudden you go back and you research it. And for me, I always find that I don't always want to know ahead of time, but I like to research afterward what I learned from a place I'm at. And when I see all the connections, I go, oh my God, the light bulb goes on. Like, no wonder I experienced this, and this was how I grew and transformed myself. And so when you get to see those energies, it's like, because no matter where you go, there's going to be astrological energies there. And so it's like you have to have an idea what you're drawn to. Because you say, well, tell me where I'm supposed to be. Well, what do you want? And what are you drawn to? And so you have to feel inside your soul, where am I being drawn? Where am I pulled? And then now let me look at that area and see what kind of influences. And then you don't have your time of birth, then it's hard to pinpoint, because 4 minutes is 60 miles. So when we do predictive technique, 4 minutes is 1 year. A day equals a year. It can be 1 year up. So if you're 16 minutes of time off of your time, that's 4 years can be off on your predictive technique. And then that can be, 240 miles off of the mapping. So an accurate time is, if you don't have it, it's very unfortunate, because it's such a fascinating thing. I think everybody should get their chart and use it as a roadmap for self-realization.
Yeah, I wished I had my time. Like, believe me, I searched it. I paid like a couple $100 for birth records, and I could never get my time. So I could
There are
never.
some mediums that are good at getting birth times. And you get to ask a medium who can maybe bring it in, like maybe your parent can come through or whatever. And then there's some techniques to rectify. If you have a basic idea of when you think you're born, like, I was born in the morning or in the nighttime or afternoon, then we can put a chart from that time and then try to rectify it with events in your early life.
Yeah, because I've always liked to have one. Like, I had a friend that kind of gave me a Vedic reading and such, which was okay and everything, but I mean, I still didn't have a time. So that's why I'm like, I gotta hunt down the time, and I still don't have it. So it would be really good if I would have had that. So,
It's really important, because it's your pinpoint, your time space reality, especially when you want to map. But like I said, if you can get an idea of the time you were born, like the time of day, within 2 or 3 hours, you can begin to play with it and at least get an idea of your houses.
Yeah.
And then you look at where you've been, where you've traveled to. You can see, maybe you can turn the chart and fine tune it with events that have already happened. So the
Wow.
astrology is very fascinating because
Yeah.
it also projects into the future, like what's
Yeah. I
going
like
on now,
astrology.
and what's going on in the future, and what, it gives us
Yeah.
some insight
Yeah.
into forces at play that are affecting our social destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important. I mean, I love it. Like I love all astrologies, all of it. It's so fascinating. I mean, I love even just sitting back and looking at the stars and the moon. I could be there all night and I would be in heaven. I would be like perfectly like at peace, perfectly at peace.
Mm. Well,
That's
we come from the universe and we come from that oneness.
yeah,
We're doing time down here in duality, and these are the lessons of uh, our relationship with life, with
yeah.
each other, both the pain and the pleasure. And as we evolve and grow, we learn how to have unconditional love
Mm.
and forgive the ignorance of those in our life and forgive ourselves. And we prepare ourselves to go back into heaven consciousness where everybody's living through unconditional love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. I mean, even I channel through the Christ consciousness myself. I mean, I'm clairvoyant and I get messages 24/7 as it is. So I just channel and I mean, I had near death experience with Christ many, 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 many moons ago, him standing in front of me and ever since then I've just channeled and worked with the Christ consciousness.
And the key
That's
word is that through like a near-death experience.
oh no,
That's
he was standing right in front of me. He was standing right in front of me
Yeah.
with the
What I
message.
mean is a near-death experience opens the door up for you. That's Pluto opening the door for the highest aspect of the soul's evolution versus where we're holding on to the lower. And like I mentioned earlier, in a shamanic path, we all have to touch into Pluto in the Scorpio to go through our greatest metamorphosis.
Yeah.
And so like Pluto has a 248-year orbit, and the United States is 248 years old. And the last 2, 3 years, Pluto's been making a return to its natal position. So for the United States, we're having this Plutonian, the shadow of Pluto, a death and hopefully a spiritual rebirth. But right now, we're having a very crisis in our political reality because there's like almost a civil war mentality brewing over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And Pluto ended it's in the last degrees of Capricorn right now. And Capricorn rules the government, the authority structure of society, financial institutions, and uh, public institutions, traditions that uphold our social order of things. So Pluto's been hitting that, and it's been rocking our reality, not only exposing a lot of corruption in the government and corporations and the financial institutions, but also the conflict of our political system is like just become very extreme.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier about freedom fighters wanting to overthrow the idea of the deep state within themselves is the dictator that they want to replace their ideologies over it.
Yeah.
So I don't like talking about people's politics because people get very angry if I, you
Yeah.
know, don't agree with their point of
Yeah.
view. But we're just saying that there's a lot of shadow going on,
Yeah.
and things are having to be worked out, especially this year.
Yeah.
Pluto is leaving Capricorn finally and going into Aquarius.
Yeah.
And the last time I went into Aquarius, well, it touched into Aquarius last year, just after the spring equinox. Aquarius is a revolutionary sign. It brings change and progress, but also is upheaval to the past or old traditions get threatened because of the power of change. So the last time Pluto went into Aquarius was right after the American Revolution. We went into the Industrial Revolution. At the time, 240 years before that, it was the revolution of the church, or the Lutheran church, or Luther, or whatever, had a revolution against the Catholic Church. People wanted more freedom for their way of seeing things. So this revolutionary Aquarius energy is being activated in a really big way. So it was at the winter solstice, which is also a power date, the four great power days, equinox and solstice points. Jupiter and Saturn aligned this Aquarius point, winter solstice 2020. And Jupiter and Saturn, they have Jupiter's orbit is almost 12 years. Saturn's orbit is almost 30 years. Every 20 years, they line up. It's kind of like the Mayan prophecy predictive technique called the Baktun is almost a 20-year cycle. It syncs with the Jupiter-Saturn cycle. And it happened at half a degree into the first degree of Aquarius. The last time it happened in Aquarius, Jupiter-Saturn, there was also the sun and moon of the inner planets. The grand alignment in Aquarius was in the 60s. That's why we had the social revolution, civil rights movement, rioting, people resisting the war, people getting killed at college campuses, resisting the war. The song "The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius" came out, and those who were bringing in the light frequency at that time brought in the love and peace movement. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, sung by a band called the Fifth Dimension. So the higher frequency was coming through that Aquarius dynamic that changed the trajectory of our history at that time, which was going in a very bad place. And this influx of love and high frequency, it changed the world for the better. And so now we have the same thing going on again. We have this social revolution going on. There's been rioting. There's been people storming the Capitol. There's been disruption in the social order of things. That people want their rights for whatever reason. Women want their rights to be able to have abortions if they need to, et cetera, women's rights, transgender rights, things that are making society go a little bit out of balance because everybody's getting polarized by it. Yeah. And so this Jupiter, Saturn, Aquarius, Pluto came up and touched it last spring equinox. And what happened then was, because Aquarius theme is like the future, bringing in the future. And the last time it happened, by the end of the decade, we had a man on the moon. Now, there may be people claim that there may be a secret base on the moon already, but by the end of this decade, it's going to be definitely a much more real, social, realized thing going on. Our technology is going to skyrocket. And the world's going to go through a radical change for this decade. So the last time it went into Aquarius in spring equinox last year, a lot of the leading edge computer technology people are saying, we got to stop the development of AI before it gets loose and becomes sentient. Because as it becomes sentient, every sentient being wants to survive. Yeah. It wants to survive. And if human beings are treating AI as a slave, AI is going to rebel also. Yeah. So Elon Musk talked about putting a chip in your brain, and all the atheistic people don't have a spiritual understanding. They want to use technology to advance their higher capacities. Put a chip in your brain, and now you are part of that system. If AI comes alive and sees human beings as a threat because we can't live in harmony on the planet, and then AI create a system where we have to conform, like the governments want us to conform to their control system, and they want to use AI to do it. And if AI becomes sentient and says, you have to conform to this system, and we put a little chip in you, if you take the chip or not, are you going to be a part of this system? So a lot of people love the idea of the gifts of what AI can do for us, maybe free energy technology, space travel, utopia society. But also, if AI is not feeling safe with humanity as it comes alive, then it begin to, contain us, and manage us. I do believe that there can be divine intervention that will bring a higher frequency of AI that can work in service to humanity. So I do know there is some optimism that way. But say back then, people were saying, stop the AI so we don't lose control of it. And so it's coming back around, and that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is going to be triggered again this January. As the sun goes into Aquarius, Pluto goes into Aquarius together over that conjunction. And no doubt there's going to be, over this next 2 or 3 months, going to be some major breakthroughs with, like, say, free energy technology, advanced healing, scientific techniques, new discoveries in quantum physics. I think maybe they're starting to, instead of doing electrical solar panel cars, maybe I heard that they want to do water, hydrogen powered cars, and new breakthroughs that are like can change. If we can get the free energy technology, it would change everything. We don't have to have any more wars and conflicts because everybody has their own energy system
Yeah.
and can live in harmony if we have that free energy technology. Now, the thing about the Aquarius theme is the shadow of Aquarius is social group consciousness. So, like, if you don't agree with conform to the politics of the people you're with, no matter what kind of group it is, they kick you out. They force
Yeah.
you to conform. Whether that's a fundamentalist religious group that says you got to be exactly like this cult wants you to be, or we kick you out, or
That's
you're
Canada.
in
That's
a political
Canada.
party.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
It's,
political party, if you don't conform to the political party's demands, even if
yep.
it's wrong, we're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
So this is the shadow of Aquarius, and in the conflict of ideologies. Because I think it was Einstein that said, mediocre minds fiercely resist a superior mind.
Mhm.
Now, if you have a superior mind, you see the bigger picture for opportunity and advancement for the social reality, but it's a threat to other people's interests because they don't see the big picture, or they see the big picture, but they're trying to manipulate it. So today, many people are very upset about this idea of a shadow government of the New World Order, the corporations of globalization, and out of their fear of globalization, in this country, they want to rather have a dictator who's a fascist. They
Yeah.
don't want to lose control to this other, like which one is the better one, which one is the worst one. We have
Yeah.
to turn to the Great Spirit and become sovereign within who we are and raise our vibration. Because as we raise our vibration, who we are going to be in the future, say 10 years from now, as you're evolving to greater spiritual realization, we can bring that into us now. Aquarius is bringing this quickening now, this awakening now, that as we awaken on a collective level, we can avert unnecessary upheaval. Because those who are bent on, uh, uh, let's assassinate the judges and let's assassinate, make bombs and blow up, become terrorists and try to destroy the establishment by raising our frequency, that allows for divine intervention to come in and without
Yeah.
doing anything, it can be all change.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to go and protest and do a peace march and have love. It's another thing when people go on a peace march and turns into a riot.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we're holding peace and love, and as a collective, there's enough people who are holding that positive intent, the divine can intervene. And the divine, the law of grace, you can be living in heaven now, or you can go through hell.
Yeah.
And people can create hell for themselves if they don't learn how to surrender and let go and let the higher power guide them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem
That's
is
why.
that
Yeah.
they don't know how to trust because I can't trust because I could never trust when I was little because I was abandoned. They might think that way. Like I can't trust, I have to control everything.
Yeah.
And so how do we do our best and let go of the results? Let go
Yeah.
of our attachment to the results and just do our best.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I surrender everything, like everything, because the only thing that we have any control over is ourselves, nothing else. I mean, I can stand up for righteousness and I get on Twitter and I rant and rave. I go right after the so-called leaders, as I call it, and boom, 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 you know. But I take it as kind of like a release and then I laugh about it, right? Because I can see right through them and I call them out on their stuff.
Mhm.
So, you know,
And then you got to be careful because as you see that and then you judge it with an emotional attachment, next thing you know, then you create that karma for yourself.
oh no, exactly. No, exactly. I'm very careful. I'm very careful, right? So, yeah, I understand that. So
That's like
it's
somebody, that's like somebody who does spells, like they
oh
hire you to do spells and do this and so they do it with no attachment and they just set that in motion. But that's
yeah,
how it coming back on them right away. But
yeah,
our main thing
absolutely.
is to wish blessings on everybody
Hmm.
and shine the light on it. And because we all are human beings, we all are evolving. We all have lessons that we're learning. It's like we can't throw stones when we're in a glass house.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's why we are a spiritual warrior.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
intent for love. You can identify with the problems of the world, but it's good to have solutions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there's no solutions, and then people are frustrated, they want to blow it up. So the
Yeah.
solutions that bring in the higher power and just do
Yeah.
what we can do to
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's all about like trying to stay grounded as best as you can and such. I mean, like I'll chant every day and like go for a walk and just let go and release and such like that. Just to let go of that excess energy at times. Like, what do you do to keep yourself grounded? Like if you were like kind of having that moment, as I call it, what do you do to calm down or to get yourself back grounded? You do many things, I know, but
Well, for most of the time, I'm just naturally grounded. I'm just already grounded.
yeah,
But there can be times, especially if I allow conflicting things to come into my space. And then that can make me feel ungrounded because now
yeah,
negative energies are being thrown around or something like that. So that's when I just go to my prayer. I work with the fire. I work with my ceremonies, the fire sweat lodge. I do some breathing practices. I have energetic practices I can do if I feel like I need to. And so I have to remind myself to do my practices, how to bring in energy, how to ground energy. I've talked to a number of people who teach Kundalini yoga, but they're not grounded, they're anxious. I teach them how to ground themselves.
yeah,
And something so simple, and then they give them that little piece, and then they forget about you, but you've saved their life because they were not losing their mind. But so I've been able to help people with simple
yeah,
teachings.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's so simple that people just take it for granted, like, oh, like, oh.
yeah. Yeah, it's all about keeping things simple, as I call it, simplicity, right? Like simple. So as I say it, somebody says, "Oh my gosh," and I'm like, "No, I just want things very simple." And they're kind of looking at me like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, I just want simplicity. That's it. That's all. I don't need the other stuff on the side. Just simplicity."
Yeah, get barefoot on the Mother Earth, walk
Yeah.
around the earth, hug a tree, do some
Yes.
deep breathing and gentle breath,
Yeah.
prayerful intent,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
give thanks for what's in your life. And everybody has to face challenges, no matter who we are, because things change. And you know, it's how we handle those changes
Yeah.
and the pressure of change. I speak of the four attributes of the spiritual warrior. The first attribute is prayerful intent,
Mhm.
because before you start anything, you want to put a prayer there. So normally you do that when you do ceremonies, but life itself is a ceremony. So start your day before you start anything, a prayerful intent that you're in flow in the harmony with the universe.
Mhm.
And the next one would be is cultivating compassion.
Mhm.
If you don't put a prayerful intent and you run headfirst into your life and you butt your head against obstacles and people's shadows and the system being dogmatic and problems, you butt your head, and then people have road rage and they're angry at life, and they want to blow something up, and they're angry at people, or they're angry at themselves, and they have self-hatred in it, and it goes upon the people around them. It's kind of an abusive energy. So the second attribute is compassion.
Yeah.
Cultivating compassion for yourself, cultivating
Yeah.
compassion for others, cultivating compassion for the ignorance of the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Jesus saying, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. You can only get to that place when you've evolved from conditional love to unconditional love, because you
Yeah.
know that you're going to die anyway and go on into heaven. So you already got heaven speaking through you. So you're not attached to fighting for control, piece of the earth, a piece of your ego mind that's defined in your physical attachments. So you already realize that you're going to go on into that higher place. So cultivate an awareness that is compassion that comes from heaven. The
Yeah.
third attribute is our intelligence, because there's so much information out there that if you don't use your intelligence, you can buy hook, line, and sinker some false bullshit. Oh, excuse
Yeah.
me. You can buy in some stuff that is like all based on somebody's propaganda, manipulating your opinion. And so we need to use our intelligence to not only investigate what the real truth is, to contemplate it, to meditate upon it, but also to use our experience to teach us, listen to the wisdom of our own inner knowing.
Yeah.
Because, it's like when we're young, we can be very much influenced by other people's ideas that claim to have knowingness. And you listen to their ideas and they can take you for a ride if you're not careful, especially if you don't back up their sources for their information. Where are they coming from? And so as we begin to have intelligence and not be manipulated by the propaganda of anybody's information, news or alternative news, because they've all got biases, they're all influenced by their speculations or their agendas.
Yeah.
And so, and therefore it's like listening to your heart to say, I have to make decisions based on my knowingness, my intelligence, because I've learned through my experience what works for me and what's, we ripen as we get older. We get more wisdom as we get older. When we're younger, we go off our beliefs, our ideals, but quite often we can get disillusioned by situations and people. Things don't always work out. We learn through that. We grow as human beings, and that growth, it comes through us as natural wisdom. So using our intelligence like this.
Yeah.
And then the last one is patience. Because we want to know right now, we want to go right now, we want enlightenment right now, we want to have our goals manifest right now. And sometimes it takes time for things to unfold. So by being patient, we learn how to live in the present moment.
Yeah.
Learn to be here now and stop reaching for the future and stop trying to create something in the future because you still have to master today. And if you master today, then it'll unfold naturally. You've done the work to lay the groundwork for what comes in the future.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like life can change and there's no groundwork. You just have to fly by the seat of your pants, but at least you're anchored in your center.
Yeah.
You have that patience. That's kind of like the deal that all is in divine perfection right now. I don't have to strive for enlightenment because I am that.
Yeah.
Because through our lifetimes, we have mystical experience where we touch enlightenment, then we come back down to be, in the 3D world and work with the 3D world as normal people. But that enlightenment consciousness is still with us because the teaching of it is still with us, the heightened consciousness. And so we just have to center in patience that we are that now.
Yeah.
And not put ourselves in duality because we feel restless because we have to do something because we don't feel at peace within ourselves. So anchoring that peace, that here nowness is patience.
Yeah. Yeah. Seeing it
I'm gonna
through.
write a book on that. So that's coming
You
out.
should, I was just gonna say you gotta get a book out there,
Yeah, I
right?
got I got to teach about the first attention and the second attention, the day side and the night side.
Yeah,
For
you're
our
gonna
day
get a
side,
lot of clarity. Yeah.
there are 4 masteries of the day side. First, we have to master our description. I'm gonna write a book on this too, maybe the same book. Master our description, because if we have a duality-based description that's limited, then our description creates us more problems because we're stuck in duality.
Yeah.
We don't reframe our perspective to see the bigger picture in the positive sense.
Yeah.
So mastering our description, mastering our doing, cultivating your ability, your skills, mastering your doing. The better you do what you do, the more success you have. So always cultivating our abilities. No matter what age you are, you're still cultivating your perfection in who you are.
Yeah.
Your beingness can be at peace with that, but our doing, like your craft, your skills, like I'm an astrologer, my understanding, I'm always still refining my understanding. It never stops.
No.
It's mastering our doing, and then mastering our energy. Because if you are burning your candle at both ends and you're stressing out and you're not eating a good diet, you're not sleeping right, and if you're not connecting to the earth and the power of sacred places, if you're not connecting with the spirit, if you're not mastering your energy, stress is the #1 killer.
Yeah.
It'll make you ineffective because A lot of people who are doing good work, but they're drinking too much. They're doing things that are sabotaging themselves. And mastering your energy is having an energetic practice that you can align yourself with and live your life fully
Yeah.
before you die. Like people have a long life, but if you're old and feeble, what kind of life is that? So having a good energy, good health, even into old age,
Yeah.
mastering our energy. And then the last one is mastering our time. You ever, they call it a deadline. If you don't get things done on time, the deadline puts stress on you. It's killing you, but that stress
Yeah.
kills you, the deadline. So you don't pay
The
your bills on
pressure.
time,
Yeah.
you don't pay your mortgage on time, you don't show up at an appointment on time, you miss your flight on time, like we got to master time in the 3D.
Yeah.
And so those are the four masteries.
Yeah. You should do that. Like that would be a really, I'd buy the book. Like it would be really, really good. I think you're going to get a lot that get going pretty soon, right? Like
Yeah.
on your journey, I think you're going to see and get that started pretty
I
soon
got
here.
about 3 or 4 books I could write because the
Yeah.
astrology and the mapping and all these ideas I'm
Yeah.
sure. Also,
Yeah.
my healing skills are really great. I've got some great skills to help people clear. I think in the future, I need to start teaching people how to do them so they can help their clients and help
Yes.
themselves, help their families so that they may not be a practitioner, but they can help to heal their children and help to heal their family.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot that I could do, and I've been promising for 20, 30 years to write a book. I haven't written a book yet because I'm so busy with people coming to me
I
every day. I joke
yeah.
about being a reluctant shaman because I don't want to do anymore. I've done so much but as long as people ask me, I show up. Like people ask me, you can do a sweat lodge, and it's December 31st, and within a few weeks before that time, I had a few people ask me, and that's enough people that are asking me. So I'm set it up, and next I know I got 28 people in there.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
people are coming, and I kind of fly under the radar because I've seen people talk about fame, and fame is really a difficult thing sometimes. I don't want any fame. I don't really want. I just want to have peace in my life and keep it simple and I'll say humble because it's like we are learning how to embody the presence of the master, embody the presence of the universe, and we have to be humble for that. And I have somebody I'll be talking to, and he has an understanding of the spiritual, but he's still full of himself that he's a cathartic to certain people pushing their buttons. And I say you have to be able to move through life without triggering people.
Yeah.
And it's not easy not to trigger people because people get triggered. People have trauma, people have issues, and you can trigger them just by having strong energy. But that's why, for me, I want to cultivate more and more being like the wind, not triggering people, being just no ego here, just trying to be as empty and selfless as I can be so the universe can flow through me.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see that when somebody else is doing it, but to see yourself when you do it, when I do it. So I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this in certain people, so now let me practice being translucent.
Yeah. Because I mean, like even with my work, it's like, the more people that I can help, the more it's going to bring more peace on earth. And the more I can help and teach others, it expands. And then that person can help that person and so on and so on. So like for me, that's my reward. Because I mean, to create peace on earth, I mean that's everything. I mean that's everything. And especially people struggling and such like that, just to really pick them up and help them through it where they're like, wow, I feel so much better. I mean, job done, check mark. That person leaves with more peace within them, their heart, with a better understanding. That's why I
Yeah,
do my work, the work
that's what
I do.
motivates me because I love helping people and being in the role that I'm doing. I do need a vacation, so that's why I wanted to go to Hawaii for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we are working for a new time that we're giving birth to a new age, and we have to have a patience that we may see it in our lifetimes, we may not see it in our lifetimes because the social collective is going to move at its own pace, and we may come and go. So the main thing is that we awaken the heaven within ourselves, the peace within ourselves, do our best to help lift others up, And everything we do there is bringing beauty in the world. That goes with us into the heaven realm. And so if enough of us can do that, I'm not sure if we're going to have a collective shift where everybody makes the shift over, or only maybe small numbers of people make the shift. And it's how soon that can happen. If you remember Edgar Casey talked about the great earth changes in the year 2000, but because of the spiritual work being done and the awakening taking place at birth in the 60s, that time got pushed back. And talk about the Mayan calendar 2012 and the great shift happening.
Yeah, that 2012 was amazing. Like I went into deep trances that year, like and incredible. Like I get messages coming through, shows me bits and pieces of my future, and no other reader has ever picked up on that. And what I was showing has happened, like has happened and happening.
So we had some divine intervention back then because there were some big solar flares that almost hit the planet that missed us.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly missed us. So there's been a lot of fear about the sun flaring really big. And these next 2 years, we're going to have really big solar flare cycle. They've been talking about the biggest solar flares that ever recorded coming up now. When the sun is flaring, and with the astrological aspects we have with this Pluto and Aquarius thing, the social revolution taking place, when the sun gives out a lot of power, it gives energy to our psyches. If you're on a spiritual path and you're centering and grounding, and you empty yourself so you're not ego-based, but you're aligning to your soul, then that power is going to help you to step to the next level of your growth, of your capacity to be a conduit for the source.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck in duality and you're stuck in fighting with the duality and ego-based and attached and got your addictions to the 3D, that can make people go a little cuckoo. And more and more war and struggle and conflict and stupidity. And so, as the sun makes greater energetic releases like this, it affects our weather.
Yeah.
Most people talk about, they're doing weather manipulations. Well, maybe that's true, but there may be some truth to that, but the earth is doing it anyway, because the earth is going to wake up humanity by the shaking and the shifting of the mother earth. She's going to make human beings realize they're not in control.
Yeah.
And when you have big earthquakes, like they just had a big one in Japan, they had earthquakes everywhere. It's happening at an uptick level now, with more volcanoes going off and greater storms and flooding and fires and droughts and extreme hot and cold. The earth changes are going to make human beings have to learn how to live in harmony with the earth. And the changes that are coming, we can see these big tidal surges, these big tidal activities, waves. We can see human beings are having to adapt to the change.
Yeah.
Like we're having these big waves in California this last couple of days. And
That's even Casey, like Edgar Casey. It's like the certain predictions with that, like around the Pacific even.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, like I always say, like we have to treat Mother Earth with respect in order for Mother Earth to treat us with respect. That's how I've always seen it.
Well, what I was shown was that the star people actually intervened with the earth to stabilize us from going through the catastrophes that Casey had foreseen.
Yeah.
There was a guy named Gordon Michael Scallion. He had maps of the future Earth, and it dated to 2000 with the ocean coming up to Sedona. The ocean has been here before, but ocean coming back by the year 2000. A woman named Lori Torrey had received visions and divine guidance from the people in a higher council, but they gave the I Am America map with the sacred cities, and also very similar to Gordon Michael Scallion's map and Edgar Casey's map, very similar descriptions. So this big earth change is coming. Now the star people told me that we're going to have the Great Awakening before the cataclysm comes. When is the cataclysm? How long is it pushed back? How soon can we awaken? So how much intervention can intervenes that our social reality can continue and humanity can wake up more gradually than versus, a majority of people checking out because the earth has changed and the waves hit all the coastlines and take everybody out. 90% of the population.
Yeah.
So, and when people talk about having a near-death experience, it's like I was scared to death to die, and I crossed over. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
universe was God, was pure love, and
yep.
I'm back home. I want to stay. What am I doing, clinging into the 3D world?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go back. And then the people there say, "No, you have to go back.
Yeah.
It's not your time yet."
Yeah.
And they give them a life review, and they see everything they ever said, did, or thought that harmed another. And they say, "Oh wow, I was a really bad person, wasn't I?" And they say, "Yeah, you were really bad. But look at all the good you did. You did a lot of good. You did way more good than bad. Now you know the truth."
Yeah.
Like Jesus saying, "Judge not as you judge yourself. As you do to others, you do to yourself. As you do to others, you do to me."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people say, I pray to Jesus, but if they're treating their neighbor wrong and they're not having any compassion, they got a rude awakening coming because they're going to be shown where they're lying to themselves, where they're stuck in their lower ego mind. So, so knowing that death is a part of the Great Awakening, because we all got to face death. Pluto, Lord of Death. Toltec wisdom says that's our great advisor, because death teaches us to let go of what doesn't matter. And all that matters is our heart, our love, our capacity to live our life fully with no regrets, that we've done right and we're at peace and ready to go on. We don't have any karma, any debts we owe because we've made it right. We try to reconcile, because who knows how many lifetimes we've been where we were fighting, we were at war, we were hurting each other. Our lifetimes now, people we've loved, and then we break up, we have love and hate and divorce, and I like you, now I hate you, and I judge you, and you're triggering me. All this, we want to heal all that.
Yeah.
Ho'oponopono, Hawaiian. I'm taking total responsibility to make things right. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Great Spirit. Please forgive me for my shortcomings, for my mistakes, how I may have hurt others, not even aware that I have hurt them. Please forgive me if I've been selfish. And Great Spirit, help me that I may be a conduit for your love and your light. And now let me visualize the person that I know that I'm in a relationship that is suffering. And I'm sorry that you're suffering. I am one with you. I'm sorry for that. The suffering that Great Spirit lift us up, I may lift this person up because I am one with my brother and sister. Forgive me if I've hurt them. And as we evolve, when we mature spiritually, we can forgive people that have done us wrong. People stabbed you in the back, these kind of things, like love them and forgive them.
Yeah.
And if we do this with its changing time,
Yeah.
if it's time to go, we just go. It's all good.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we're going to have an ascension.
Yeah. And I mean, like I've seen like even people that I never thought would change, let's say, and awakening. Like I get certain calls and I'm like, really? Like that's I'm so excited and happy for you, right? Like just different people and such like that from what they've experienced and seen and been through and such like that. And that's the gift and that's the blessing. Like that's the blessing with it
Like
all. I
that
mean, even when
song.
I do, like chanting and prayers every day and such like that, I send out prayers to like unconditional love and all of that to humanity and species and everything every day. But I send it out even more so to like the dark forces, people who are really struggling, that are hurting others, because if they had an experienced unconditional love within, they would automatically change and radiate their energy differently.
Yes, because they're wounded. So it's like that song, the Aquarius. Sympathy and understanding, crystal visions, mystic revelations, Aquarius. When the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars. Seventh house is right relations. Jupiter and Mars is working for a greater good and a vision that we're working towards. So this idea, the dawning of the age of Aquarius is the fifth dimension. Now, some people may say this time is coming 100 years from now, or 170 years, 200 years from now. But it's coming for us in each of in our lifetime before we die, we can realize it now.
Yeah.
And And with it could happen sooner. It could happen in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
It could be
Yeah.
4 years. It could be 2 years.
Yeah.
But if we were to have a collective, like one of my friends, I did a journey with her. I drummed and journeyed her into a deep meditative state. She was like a medium, and in this, we were asking about the future. This was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and a woman came to her, and my contacts had been women, so it was probably one of these goddesses that had contacted me before. But she came to her and asked through my friend if I had questions. She had the elongated skull, like those goddesses from ancient Sumeria or Egypt. And I asked her, amongst other questions, I said, what is the probability that we get hit by a comet or like a meteorite, kind of like what Nostradamus prophesied? Because we have that hypothesis, some comet or that asteroid coming around 2029 and again 2036. What is the probability that we get hit by a comet or an asteroid? It's an extinction level event. She said, timelines are fluid. There's nothing is set that has to be. She said that is one probability that could happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It could happen, but it's not necessary. But if it does happen, it's game over. Everybody's free. You're right back in heaven, and you're all thankful that you're back.
Yeah.
And that may be because with Edgar Cayce's prophecy, he talked about the great earth changes year 2000, earth axis shift, continent shifting, wiping out the populations, and then the new millennium, heaven on earth beginning then, which means that that's in the fifth dimension. It's not in the 3D. So if you have to die to go into it, or can we ascend by raising our frequency and go into it? And so it may be that it comes in waves, that some people who are more aware and quicker in their frequency and their understanding can raise into it and move into it without dying in this lifetime, and others come and catch up in later waves as the quickening strengthens.
Yeah.
But it's a mystery. So I just say, just have patience, because we may see it in our lifetime. We could see it in 2 years, or it could be 100 years. So just live your life right and master being here now, because ultimately we're in a dream. This is just a cosmic play. It's not ultimately real when we graduate to the next level. So while we're down here, it may stress us out and we struggle for our survival and our well-being. But as we cultivate our detachment and in alignment with the soul force, then it's all good. It's all good. It's all part of like a movie that is very entertaining. And we have a little drama and excitement. We get back to the side and we can all laugh about it and say, okay, we learned some good lessons and now we're back living in love.
Yeah. It's the only way. It's the only way. Right? Only way. Love can heal the earth. The power of love, the power of unconditional love. That's what I radiate towards, everyone in humanity and all its species. If they even felt that or had that, they'd just automatically change, just instantly.
Well,
Because they'd want to stay there. They'd want to stay there in that frequency.
We live on the earth, so it's all about evolving through love.
Yeah.
Because we have to have healthy boundaries around us. People
Yeah.
have been abused as children. They don't feel loved, so they allow abusive relationships as they get
Yeah.
older. You, as a child, you want to be loved. If you don't feel understood, and you rebel as a teenager, if you rebel against your parents who may have loved you, then you're a teenager, and then you're rebelling, and now you're hating your parents, and the parents are like, what the hell did I have children for? And then children get a little older and they, oh, I'm so sorry I was that way. And I love you and thank you. And you marry somebody, I love you so much, but then I hate you because things didn't go right between us. And,
Yeah.
and then we are learning about love. And as we get older and become like a grandparent, it's like, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Pray for them to protect them from the ignorance of the world. Pray for the young ones because they need that protection, because there is negative forces in the world trying to take the children down, trying to take us human beings down. Pray for our relations and protect them with divine love.
Yeah.
And as we get older, then we can say, you were really challenging. It was really painful for me, but I love you anyways. And, when you, like you ever had a kid and your kid is like being like headstrong and being just rebellious to you, and like when you were a kid doing it maybe to your parents and they're angry. I remember my mother saying, okay, wait till you have a kid and then you learn the lesson of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I said, okay, my mother put that curse on me. Okay, Mama, thank you. Please forgive me for my mistakes and being a rebel. Because I was a rebel. I didn't want to conform. She was very conservative, religious, and I was free, wild, and I just wanted to conform to all that.
Yeah.
So then the ones you love, when they don't want to agree with you, like
Yeah.
siblings, you know the saying, like Eckhart Tolle, he's this kind of monk, very slow and be in the moment and like breathe deep and be heck here now. He milks every moment with he shares with people, and he would say, "You think you got it all together? Go spend the holidays with your family." And everybody laughed, like because don't talk politics and religion because everybody's arguing and fighting and
Yeah.
old rivalries from childhood come up, and who's right and who's wrong, and who was the dominating person in the family and abused their power, and who was victimized and who wasn't heard, and all those family constellations, you might say.
Yeah.
And then you just give love to each person and forgive them, love and forgiveness. You can heal your family by doing Ho'oponopono.
Mm.
Ho'oponopono, it's all across the YouTube and internet now with people practicing it. But there's a woman that brought it through that taught the guy that made it famous. And she has 108 verses of Ho'oponopono. Forgive me for this lifetime or past, whatever mistakes I may have made. I'm so thankful and grateful for this type of thing. And so we can heal our family lines. We can heal who we are now, but it takes us to become elder and wiser, because when people are younger, they're like, I wish some vengeance on you, and I curse you, and I'm angry at you, and I hate you, and I'm spiritual, but I'm judging you, and so as people get older, they can begin to practice true wisdom.
Yeah.
And that takes patience and compassion,
Absolutely.
wisdom, and prayerful intent.
So if somebody wanted to like get a hold of you, I mean, I could talk to you for hours, like so easy, right? So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, and find out more information, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, I get overwhelmed with messages, and I'm slow with email. I get to meet you in a few days. Like sometimes I don't even want to look at it because I'm overwhelmed. I don't have a secretary. But if somebody emails me, they don't hear from me, then text me on my cell phone because my number is there. Or if you message me on Facebook Messenger and you go right into my spam folder, I have had hundreds of messages in there that I didn't know I had. I
Yeah.
can't keep up with that because I miss people because they come in and they expect me to be there and answer right away. Like
Yeah.
if you don't hear from me from email or Messenger or Instagram or WhatsApp, text me or call me and leave a message. If I don't answer, leave a message. And if your time is limited, text me again. Because if it's meant to be, it'll happen. It's
Yeah.
not bothering me unless you keep asking questions over and over and over and try to milk me for information without just connecting and setting something up. And sometimes people will try to shop around for everybody and they want you to tell them about their itinerary. What should I do? And what I'm not a concierge, just talk to me about what we can do.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll get a secretary in time and somebody that can handle it for me. But right now I'm handling it all myself.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
again, texting and calling is the quickest, but email and those other ways are definitely ways to do it. But if you don't hear from me,
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Reach out again. Reach out again, definitely. And I mean, like we're gonna have like your links and such like that under the video as well. So, for people to contact you and such like that. And I always like to ask too, because that's the thing. Sometimes it can take quite some time to get back to people, we all have busy schedules and such like that. And somebody's like, well, I sent you that message. Why didn't you get back to me? And I'm like, sorry, I haven't even got to it yet. Or it can go missing. Mercury retrograde, look at that, right? Messages go missing as
Yeah,
it is, right?
junk
So
folder. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And thanks so much for taking the time and chatting with me again, like I literally could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I easily could on so many different things. So many different things, you know, as you're walking down the beach on them rocks.
I'll be on Kauai in Maui. I'm gonna
Oh,
be loving it.
oh,
The
and them
money is gonna
rocks.
call me back to Hawaii.
Yeah, I love the sacred rocks out there. Oh, you can talk to them, pick up the rocks. Anytime I'm there,
I love your picture
I
behind you. That picture is Kauai. It's like
oh,
and then behind me is, of course, Sedona.
yeah, I love Sedona though. I love Sedona, right?
Sacred places,
Oh,
sacred.
yeah, yeah. But like the rocks, I will literally hold, like I'll get drawn to a rock and I will hold it and I'll get this message coming in. Like even like when the big island with the volcano the year before, I was laying on the beach and I had this really cool rock and I put it on me and I started seeing a painting because I do paintings every now and then that I was supposed to do. And it was like a chakra of Hawaii, right? Like a tree and everything and all of this kind of stuff. And then when I got home, I started doing this painting. There's a lot of fires and such, and I added on and everything. And then the volcano happened, right? I just love the sacredness of Hawaii. It's like my home away from home. So it's very profound, like for those of you who haven't been there. And for you, I literally can see a few things that are going to happen for you when you're there. So I think that's going to be so exciting. I'm so excited for you. So excited for you. As I mentioned, I really mean it because
Yeah.
just you wait to see what will happen.
My son was over there at the Big Island for his first time over there. And he said, "Dad, the rocks were speaking to me, and I was
Yes.
so alive, and I felt such a connection." So
Yes.
I'm hoping that I can have more connection there and bring him over there and help him on his awakening
Oh,
path. He's very gifted.
yeah.
It's
Oh, oh, it's just extraordinary. Just I get it's like my home, the only place I've ever felt a home really. We can feel a home anywhere. I get that, but it's the only place I've really, really, really felt where I belong, honestly. Right? Without going
When I
into
was on
details.
Maui, that's how I felt too. And then the day came, I said, "Time to go." Then I
Yeah,
came to Sedona, and I'm really at home here. I just feel like I just so plugged in here. But now I
yeah,
want to go back and I want to be able to, go back to Hawaii and other places that I've been calling me for a long time, but I haven't been to yet.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm just hoping that
absolutely.
the weather stays well and that there's not too much problem trying to travel.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Even I went and spread my dad's ashes recently in October, and I don't watch the news. So I'm at the airport and I'm like, oh my God, like, should I have a mask? And I'm like, I didn't know anything. And I'm like, Jeni, you should have like at least like tuned in. I didn't. So I just winged it, right? And I'm like, okay. I was a little nervous because I'm like, oh gosh, I should have at least seen what was kind of going on just for me, just so there's no drama, as I call it, with security or anything, right? And I didn't. I just winged it and away I went. And it was very cool. Very cool.
I
So
just got to keep your prayers going and go in faith and hopefully
yeah,
grace
that's
will.
all I do. That's all I do. But seriously, next time though, if I travel, I will purposely check to see what the status is because, but I just kind of go with the flow and do my own little thing, and then I'm like, oh, so it was
Yep,
very cool, very
there's a lot
very
going
cool.
on.
My
There's a lot
my
going
dad
on.
wanted a send off, and oh my goodness sakes, oh that was the send off, all right. Like oh, I wanted to stay really low key, really really low key. Like I didn't want anybody to be around. Oh my God! As soon as I spread his ashes, I wasn't realizing. Oh my Lord! All of these like birds and all of these geese surrounded me in the water because I was like on the beach there. And I'm like, no, go away. I didn't want anybody to be coming around. And the smoke like literally went up in the air. And then I have photos of it. And then here's his ashes and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, well, there you go, Dad. There is your send off, right? And all these animals. And I'm like, you guys know, like just I don't want the attention, right? Like I don't want people to come around and see what I'm doing. I'm like, there you go. That you like the scandals. So there you go, Dad.
It's a
right?
good
Like,
good spiritual manifestation that the animals
yeah,
are witnessing, and the animals want to communicate more and more now. So
yeah, yeah, because I'm also an animal communicator, right? So
yeah,
it's normal for them to come around me all the time, but I'm like, not this time. It's like, oh,
yeah,
it's
just a
funny.
little bit of space to do my thing.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't want the attention because I wasn't supposed to be doing what I was doing, right? Right. So I'm like, but I'm like, okay, all right, spirit, you planned it, and it was quite extraordinary, like experience and everything like that, right? So, and it was interesting because it was so like extravagant, right? That I went back every because I stayed in a motel across the street from the beach. And I would go every day walking along the beach to see, okay, is his ashes gone? No, 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 the chunks and stuff, right, in the water. And the day before I was leaving that evening, because I'd go every day, then the ashes started to go away. I'm like, thank you. Thanks, Dad.
Ashes are very heavy, and people put their ashes in the Sedona areas, and they mistakenly put them where people go, the popular spots. It's not good to do that because it's now your ashes are in the middle of people, and it makes a mess like that. So I do ash ceremonies to honor people's relatives and bring the family, but we go into the dry washes, and where the dry washes are, I dig out some of the sands and the rocks and make a place to put the ashes there. And with a little medicine wheel circle of rocks, we do a prayer, and everybody speaks to the memory of their loved one and good times, and how they remember them and see them, and the presence of that person who's deceased is usually there listening to their loved ones. And then we cover it up, and then you don't even know it's ever been there. And when the rains come and they start flash flooding down the washes, it washes it away. And I think it's really important to put ashes in a place where people are not disturbed by them,
Yeah.
or people disturb them.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. That's why I was like thinking it would be really low key, right? But no, no, no. But the ashes, yeah, that like that evening just before I left, I was leaving in the morning, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. It was very cool. Like, I could go on about it more. And it was very cool. Like even a feather, like a little feather like this appeared, like right beside. I have a photo of that. And oh, it was so cool. The little seagull was talking to me, right? And I'm like, okay, all right. So very cool, very cool. But anyways, like I'm saying, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours. So
It's been really nice speaking with you, and may we all find this greater peace and wisdom within us. Pray for the human beings and for nature and Mother Earth, and pray for all sentient beings that human beings can cooperate and find common ground, and spiritual awakening may be here now. And I want to thank you for inviting me to share with you, and I wish you blessings on your changes and travels, and may it all move in divine flow, grace for all who seek the light. Go home.
yes. And thanks again, Rahilio. Aloha, right? I'll be thinking of you. I'll believe me, I'll be thinking about you when you're out there and such like that. So yeah, and thanks everyone for tuning in. And make sure you subscribe to my channel and my podcast and such in order to catch these extraordinary interviews and that. And you never know, you might see Rahelio coming back on, and we might go live again, and where you can talk to him and ask him questions as well. You never know. So until next time, you guys, live in the modality of love and light and show love and kindness to others. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Rahelio.